We are just a few months away from the release of Super Mario Bros. Wonder, but despite that, we barely know much of anything about the game. We only have the one trailer so far, which gave us a look at a few of the game's mechanics, but really, we're still fairly in the dark. One of the elements we know the least about has to do with the game's power-ups. We've only seen the mushroom, fire flower, elephant fruit, and if you want to call it a power-up, the wonder flower. The 2D Mario series in particular is known for its power-ups, so the fact we know so little about them is a bit surprising. Today, I thought it'd be fun to take a look at every past power-up in the mainline Mario series and rate them based on how likely I think they are to come to Super Mario Bros. Wonder, along with how much I want to see each of them come back. And yes, before some of you nerds go and aggressively comment that I've already done this, yes, I did talk a little bit about power-ups in my general predictions video, however, I only mentioned a few of them. In this video, I want to take a closer look at every power-up, which means we've got nearly 70 power-ups to talk about today. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and let's jump right into the first power-up. Since we're going chronologically for this video, we get to start with a power-up that I think is by far the most likely, the Superstar. It's in almost every single Mario game as either a power-up or a collectible. It's just as iconic to the series as the mushroom and fire flower. The star is a fan favorite, so there's no way it will get cut from the game. If you needed more evidence than it being in pretty much everything for some reason, take a look at the shot from the trailer. If you look closely, you can see that Mario has the rainbow effect that is almost always associated with the Superstar. The reason I don't just outright say the star is confirmed is because technically we don't see the star and this could be given to Mario in some other way, but come on, it's pretty obvious the star will return. Also, I'm going to be throwing these into a tier list, and I'm just going to put this all the way at the top in a tier of its own. Super Mario Bros. 3 is really when the power-ups start to get a bit more interesting. Let's start with the game's main power-up, the Super Leaf. This has appeared in a fairly high amount of Mario games at this point, as it also appears in New Super Mario Bros. 2, 3D Land, and 3D World. That alone gives it a decent shot to make it in, but it's also worth considering that we do have a power-up that allows us to glide in the trailer. While I do think that this cap affects the chance for a few different power-ups we'll see later, the Super Leaf does work fairly differently. Considering this is a 2D game, you'd also be able to fly along with having the tail swipe. Since this power-up is quite popular, I could definitely see it coming, and I personally would be happy to see it. And it's also worth noting, it had a prominent presence in the Mario movie. Now yes, they did reference every Mario game at some point, and I'm not saying everything from the movie will be in the game, I'm just saying it certainly doesn't hurt its chances. I'll give this a strong B tier in terms of likelihood. While we're at it, I might as well mention the several variants of this item we've seen over the years. The Tanuki suit and Stone Leaf from 3D World both let Mario temporarily turn to stone. Since these are both variants of the Super Leaf, they're obviously not as likely, so I'll put them in C tier. The Invincibility Leaf from 3D Land I'll throw into the same tier. This makes you invincible for literally an entire level until you reach the end, and then it turns back to normal. Definitely less interested in this coming back since this is a baby mode item, but since a lot of you guys are babies, I could see Nintendo bringing it back. Finally, the P-Wing gives you a Super Leaf with infinite flight. This is also a baby mode item, so I'll put it right next to the Invincibility Leaf in C tier. Here's one that I've actually been going back and forth on a bit, that being the Frog Suit. In Super Mario Bros. 3, it gives Mario significantly better water controls and also a much higher jump. Too bad it sucks out of water. Mario, go faster, please! Now, despite it only being in Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario Maker 2, I do think this does have a decent shot. For one, Mario Maker 2 is a very recent game, so being in it will inevitably help its popularity. What I really think is interesting about this power-up, though, is the fact that it's animal-based. The main power-up we saw in the trailer is based on an elephant, but what's really interesting about it is the fact that it actually turns Mario into an elephant rather than just being a suit. So what if the frog suit could make a return in a new form? That way, Mario could transform into a frog instead of just wearing a suit. This would of course make underwater levels much more enjoyable as well, so I think this deserves a solid C tier. Definitely not as likely as the Super Leaf, but I could see this getting a minor rework. I'd also be pretty happy to see it come back too. Sadly though, I don't think the same can be said for the Hammer Suit. As much as I would love to see this come back, it's probably within my top 5 most wanted power-ups, I just don't think it's going to. I'm not fully ruling it out, but seeing as it was only ever in Super Mario Bros. 3, the chances aren't looking good. I'm gonna put this in D tier. It's not impossible, but it's just not looking good. Finally, for Super Mario Bros. 3, we had the Goomba Shoe. This lets you jump on enemies that would normally hurt you like Spinies. This appears in both of the Maker games alongside Mario 3, so that does help this item's popularity a bit. Personally though, I have a feeling it won't come back, especially since Yoshi is already confirmed and they both sort of act as mounts, so I'm gonna give this a D tier. Definitely higher than the Hammer Suit, but still not very likely. Super Mario Land gives us just one more power-up to talk about, that being the Super Ball Flower. This is kind of like the Fire Flower, but the Super Balls bounce like one of those screensaver things that everyone freaks out about when it hits the corner. It's also able to collect things like coins, which is a nice bonus. Now this has only ever been present in 2 games, Super Mario Land and Super Mario Maker 2. So obviously this is gonna rank quite low, right? Well, hear me out. This may sound stupid, but one thing we did learn from the game's trailer is the fact that Super Mario Bros. Wonder takes place in the Flower Kingdom. And if you look over at the power-up we're currently talking about, that's also a flower. So in all honesty, I think that gives it more of a chance than I otherwise would have given it. It works different enough from the other flowers in the series to make its inclusion alongside them work. work. I mean, we saw both it and the Fire Flower in Mario Maker 2 after all. With the new purple coins spread out in Wonder's levels, I could see the Super Ball Flower having some niche uses to collect them out of reach, similar to how the Mini Mushroom was used to collect a few star coins in the new Super Mario Bros. Series. On top of that, do you know what else has only ever been seen in Super Mario Land in terms of the mainline Mario series? That's right, Daisy. Now yes, obviously she's way more popular than the Super Ball Flower, but if she can come back, why not this power-up? So for that, I think I'm gonna put it in C tier. Not quite a B tier contender in my opinion, but I think its chances aren't looking too bad. Mario World has 3 power-ups for us to look at. First is of course its main power-up, the Cape Feather. While I do like the Cape Feather, I feel like there are much better flying power-ups. The Cape Feather kind of lets you cheat everything, so I understand it not coming back since Super Mario World, with the exception of the Maker games. I think the Super Leaf is a much better fit as its flying capabilities are not nearly as overpowered. Plus the Super Leaf has been in more games, so I think the Cape Feather belongs in D tier. The P-Balloon better not come back because I hate talking about this power-up, do not look it up on Google Images. Alright, but on a serious note, it may be more likely than the Cape Feather, though like the frog suit, perhaps in a different form. We can see that the Wonder Flower can allow Mario to change sizes, so becoming a balloon in one of the levels seems plausible, so I'll put it in C tier. We really don't need it, Nintendo. The final Mario World power-up is more of a technicality as it's the Yoshi wings. These transport Yoshi into a sub-area and also make him become a blue Yoshi which can fly with shells in its mouth. Now, I don't think this will come back as it was, because I doubt that different Yoshi colors in Wonder are anything more than aesthetic as multiple people are able to control a Yoshi simultaneously. However, since we know Yoshi plays differently from the other characters as he has a flutter jump and can be ridden, Yoshi exclusive power-ups seem possible. Giving Yoshi wings to allow him to fly seems like an obvious choice, so I'm going to also throw these into C tier. Super Mario Land 2 just has the carrot, and I definitely don't see it coming back. It's just a glide, which we already see covered by the cap ability in the trailer. On top of that, this has only ever appeared in Super Mario Land 2, which is not the most popular Mario game out there. Maybe there could be something that turns Mario into a rabbit, like maybe he could step into a spring lock. But even if he did have a rabbit power-up, it very likely won't act like this did, so it would be completely different. I'm putting this one at the very bottom of D tier. I don't really think anyone will disagree with that. Okay, we finally got out of the 2D games, so now we have to take a look at a few 3D ones. This section will cover both Mario 64 and its remake on the DS. The metal cap is just Mario 64's version of the Superstar, and while it is a well-known and popular item, I can't see it and the star being in the same game, so I'm gonna chuck it into D tier. Personally though, I do like the metal cap more, the song is just such a banger. The Vanish cap also sort of makes you invincible, but instead of having the extra trait of being able to walk underwater, this will let you go through thin objects. Personally, I also don't really see it happening, though it is probably a bit more likely than the metal cap since its uses are a bit more distinct. I'm still gonna throw it into D tier though. The final main cap for Mario 64 is the wing cap, which of course lets Mario fly after being launched from a cannon or a triple jump. While it is pretty cool, like I said, I think the Super Leaf is the most likely flight power-up. The wing cap is much better suited for a 3D game, so I'm gonna say it might just be the least likely. The other two caps here I could maybe see being Wonder Flower abilities, but the wing cap I just don't see at all. While it is pretty iconic, I think I'm gonna have to put it in F tier. There are so many 2D flight power-ups that adding one from a 3D game would be a bit strange. Mario 64 DS's power-up selection was the most difficult for me to actually come up with rankings for. There are 4 power-ups here, 3 of which being the caps for Mario, Luigi, and Wario. Now, if you want to be a nerd, we have seen Mario and Luigi both use their caps, so technically, yeah, their hats are confirmed, but that's not the same thing. These caps let you transform into the character it belongs to, which was helpful as each of them had unique abilities. Mario could wall jump, Wario had stronger punches, and Luigi was the best one. Based on my last video though, it doesn't seem like anyone besides Yoshi will have unique abilities, so I don't see why these would need to come back. There is a Mario block at one point in the trailer though, so maybe only certain characters can hit stuff, but it seems kind of unlikely. All of these will belong in D tier. I'd put Wario in F, but there is a chance he's a hidden playable character, I guess. And then there's the Power Flower, which gave each of Mario 64 DS's characters a special ability. Luigi got the Vanish Cap, Wario got the Metal Cap, Yoshi could breathe fire, and Mario... You can't keep getting away with it! This was kind of tricky for me, because I could very well see characters getting exclusive power-ups. Plus, this game does take place in the Flower Kingdom, and this is a flower. I don't know guys, I don't think this one is impossible. This might be controversial, but I'm putting it in a low C tier. This might be my craziest prediction, but I do think it's got a decent shot. I would personally like to see character exclusive power-ups too, so I'm on board with this coming back. Back to the 2D games, we have New Super Mario Bros, which gives us 3 power-ups. Let's start with the one that I think is the least likely, the blue shell. Don't get me wrong, I love this power-up. Being able to slide around in a shell to kill enemies and break bricks is a ton of fun, but it's just not seen in many games. It did technically return in 3D World as you can enter shells in that game, but besides that, it's been stuck here for a while. One thing that does help it though is its unique use, as there aren't really any other power-ups that act like it. For that, I'll give it at least C tier. I could see it making a possible surprise return, but I just don't think it's very likely. The other two power-ups in this game though are finally some I think we could put into the higher tiers. While the mini mushroom is pretty controversial due to it literally making Mario weaker, it has been seen in every new Super Mario Bros. Game, which is a big deal. Add on that the Wonder Flower can change sizes, and I think the mini mushroom has to be at least A tier. I mean, we've even seen Mario shrink in the trailer, so at the very least its attributes are pretty clearly present. The Mega Mushroom has been seen in less games, only appearing in New Super Mario Bros., New Super Mario Bros. 2 and 3D World, but it's still quite popular. This basically does the reverse, and I could absolutely see a level or two in this game based around Growing Giant. I'm gonna put this in B tier. It's shakier record than the mini mushroom keeps it out of A tier, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see it in the game. I'm just gonna go ahead and cover the two Mario Galaxy games together. First off, the Bee Mushroom makes Mario a bee. Love bees. I don't really see how this would be that helpful in 2D though, so I'm gonna put this in B tier. One transformation power-up I could see coming back though is the Boo Mushroom. This turns Mario into a boo and lets him fly through some walls with the weakness of not being able to go into the light. Now despite that just being absolutely terrifying, I could see this making for some good 2D Mario levels. We see Mario transform into several things in the trailer, and we see Blue Toad as a Goomba on the game's box art, so I think a Boo transformation is quite likely. I'm gonna be a little bit crazy about this and slap this into B tier. I think this could be a really fun power-up to come back. One that wouldn't though would have to be the Rainbow Star. This is literally just the Superstar, but the item looks more rainbow. Yeah, F tier, I'm sorry. Speaking of stars, we also have to look at the Red Star, which is Mario Galaxy's flight power-up. Like the wing cap though, I feel like there are so many ways to fly in 2D that bringing in a 3D power-up would just be a weird choice. Considering this is barely even used in Mario Galaxy, I'm gonna throw this in F tier too. The last Mario Galaxy 1 power-up is the Spring Mushroom, which replaces Mario's normal movement with spring bounces. It's pretty unique, and I honestly kind of like it. Maybe just another one of my terrible Mario Galaxy takes, but I wouldn't be against this coming back. I could see this working in 2D as well, and with it being another silly and wacky power-up like the ones we've seen so far, I'm gonna throw it into C tier. Not quite as likely as the Boo Mushroom since that has the advantage of the supposed Goomba power-up seen on the box art, but the Spring Mushroom is still possible. Now into the Mario Galaxy 2 side of things, I want to first take a look at the 3 Yoshi fruits, the Blimp fruit, Ball Berry, and Dash Pepper. I'm covering them together because I think they're all just as likely as one another. Like I said, Yoshi's probably going to need power-ups of his own, and while I think the wings are much more likely, one of these fruits making an appearance doesn't seem impossible either. I'm gonna put them all behind the wings in C tier. The Spin Drill lets Mario dig through the ground, which in Mario Galaxy was helpful to reach the other side of a planet. In a 2D game though, I don't really see it being that helpful. I'm gonna throw this into D tier. The Rock Mushroom is kind of already in the game. We see one of the transformations Mario has is a giant ball that can crash through enemies, and that's exactly what the Rock Mushroom does. This clearly isn't the Rock Mushroom though, but since this has the exact same uses, how do I rank this? I've been kind of considering different forms of a power-up as part of its chances, like how I could see a new frog transformation coming in place of the frog suit. So I guess from that perspective, this is already confirmed, but clearly this is not the same power-up, so I'll just put it in F tier. Finally, we have the Cloud Flower. Well, what can I say? It's a flower. Like I said, that helps its chances, but I also really want to see how this would work in a 2D game. This lets you create 3 platforms under yourself while also having a bit of a floatier jump. This is a really cool and unique power-up, so I personally would love to see it come back. I'll put this in C tier, just because it doesn't have any 2D appearances under its belt. Time for the best 2D Mario game, New Super Mario Bros. Wii. This has 3 power-ups, and to be honest, I think they've all got a good shot. First off, we have the Ice Flower. Yes, I know this was in Mario Galaxy, hold your comments. I decided not to cover that version of the Ice Flower because if it were to be added in Wonder, it would 100% be the new Super Mario Bros. Version. This lets you shoot out ice balls instead of fireballs, which will let you freeze almost every enemy in the game, pretty much just beside bosses. Like I said in my predictions video, I love how well this works with the Fire Flower. The Fire Flower kills things quicker, but the Ice Flower lets you kill more things, so they each have their strengths and weaknesses. The Ice Flower is one of the most popular Mario power-ups as well, reappearing as a main power-up in New Super Mario Bros. U, which is why I will never forgive the Maker Games for not including it. I'm happy no one plays U anymore. On top of just how good of a power-up this is, it also played a big part in the Mario movie, and, say it with me now, it's a flower. Personally, I think this is the single most likely power-up to return behind the star, so I'm gonna throw this right up into A tier. Might just be me desperately wanting it to come back, but you have to admit, it's got a good shot. Similarly, the Penguin suit also has a good chance, though since it's a bit more specialized, I'm gonna say it's slightly less likely. I could see this also being implemented like how I predicted the frog suit, with it becoming a full transformation rather than just the suit. I'm gonna give this a solid B tier. Personally though, I don't really care either way as long as the Ice Flower comes. The last power-up is the Propeller Mushroom, which is another one that's pretty popular. I'm also gonna throw in the Propeller Box since it's basically the exact same thing. These let you fly straight up and straight down. They act very differently from other flight power-ups, so I could certainly see them making it in. I'm gonna throw these into B tier as well. I think they could easily work. 3D Land has got 2 more power-ups for us. First off is the coin box, which will give you coins while you have it on your head. I feel like this, and its new Super Mario Bros. 2 version, the gold block, probably won't return. It feels kind of unnecessary, and I don't really think anyone is clamoring for it to come back. At the same time, I can't imagine it'd be too hard to add either, so I'll just put this in C tier. The other power-up is at least much more interesting, that being the boomerang flower. This lets you throw out a boomerang to attack enemies and collect items. This has been in a decent number of games at this point, making appearances in both 3D Land and World, and on top of that, it also made it into Super Mario Maker 2, which helps it a ton as it showed how well this power-up could work in 2D. Oh, and it's also a flower, so yeah, gonna put this one at the top of B tier. I'd be very happy to see it come back. Get it? Because it's like a boomerang. New Super Mario Bros. 2 just has one more power-up being the gold flower. Of course it's got being a flower on its side, but I think its uses kind of hold it back. It just turns whatever it hits into a coin, which sure is cool, but wouldn't really fit well in Wonder. New Super Mario Bros. 2 was all about getting rich, which is why they had a power-up as extreme as this, but since that's not the gimmick in Wonder, I don't see it fitting in too well. Maybe there could be a hidden stage with it though, like how there are special coin stages in other games, so I'll just put this in C tier. Okay, speed round for this game because who cares about it. Boost Star. This is for the sad player 5 who got stuck with the gamepad, but since the gamepad has been executed, we can throw this into F tier. The Super Acorn lets you glide, but so does this cap, D tier. The P Acorn is the same as the last one, but with infinite boost that let you cheat, F tier. The Super Crown. Peach is actually playable in this game, so having it would make no sense, F tier. Yeah, the power-ups in this game were really not that interesting. 3D World has our biggest power-up selection yet, with a grand total of 9 to talk about. First off, we got the game's main power-up being the Super Bell. Like the Boomerang Flower, this was also made an appearance in Mario Maker 2, giving us some insight into how it could work in 2D. It also prominently showed up in the Mario movie and is still quite popular. Add on it being another animal suit, and I think it's got a decent shot, so I'll put it as a solid B tier. As for its variants though, I'll put the Lucky Cat in C tier since it just lets you become a statue, the Invincibility Bell in D tier since the other baby power-ups seem more plausible, and the Giga Bell in D tier since that seemed much more like a special one-time power-up for Bowser's Fury. The only other traditional power-up would be the Double Cherry, which of course clones whoever picks it up. While I think that works well in a 3D plane, we do not need that many people on screen for a 2D one. This is definitely a fun power-up, don't get me wrong, but there's no way it could work in 2D, at least with 4 people playing at the same time, so I'm sadly gonna put this into D tier. The rest of these power-ups here are all just things that can be worn. The Ice Skate lets you have better movement on ice. I don't really know how well this would work in 2D though, as it's mostly about turning, which is much different in a 2D plane. I'm gonna put this in D tier. The Goomba mask lets you disguise yourself as a Goomba. Based on the box art though, you could just straight up become a Goomba, so yeah, this is going in F tier. The other two I definitely think have a decent shot, being the Cannon Box and Light Box. These let you shoot out either cannonballs or light beams, which are helpful in a ton of different levels. Mario Maker showed how the cannon box could work in 2D, and the light box could easily be used for dark levels, so I think these deserve to be in the B tier. Absolutely would not be surprised to see a level based on at least one of these. While 3D World was technically the last mainline game, I think the Maker games are both worth mentioning as well. Starting off, let's just get the obvious F tiers out of the way. The Master Sword lets you turn into Link, so that's not happening. The Mystery Mushroom lets you transform into a ton of different characters based on Amiibo, but that obviously doesn't fit for a mainline Mario game. Sorry to all of you who wanted to play Meta Knight and Wonder. The Super Hammer is a special power-up made for Mario Maker, so I really don't see it ever coming into a mainline title. Finally, the SMB2 Mushroom was just an excuse for the Mario Maker team to not make a new game style, so I look like an idiot for thinking there would be another, even though the game clearly pointed to it and I'm still mad about it to this day, but yeah, it's also got no reason to come over. That leaves us with 7 Mario Maker power-ups that might actually have a somewhat decent chance. The Big Mushroom is kind of just a toned-down Mega Mushroom, where Mario will still grow big, but not nearly as big. While the Mega Mushroom is definitely more popular of the two, I won't rule this one out completely, as like I said, its shape-changing abilities could be adapted to the Wonder Flower, so I'm gonna put this in B tier. Now we've got a power-up that I still dearly miss, the Weird Mushroom. This would turn Mario skinny and give him a slightly higher jump. Despite this just being a silly and wacky power-up born from a glitch, this doesn't seem impossible. I mean, look at the shot from the Wonder trailer. Mario is looking pretty weird if I do say so myself. While I definitely don't think this power-up is as likely as some of the other body-changing ones, I could see a Wonder Flower giving off an ability similar to it, so I'll put it in C tier. Also, the original Weird Mushroom looks exactly like the So Retro gift. Next, I want to take a look at the game's 3 shells, as I think they're all just about as likely as one another, those being the Buzzy Shell, Spiny Shell, and Drybone Shell. Drybone's for Smash. These all essentially give you the abilities of the respective enemy, but instead of being power-ups, are just things Mario can wear. Personally, I don't think they'll come in as they are, they just seem better suited for a Maker game, but I do think they have a solid shot of making it in another form. Like I said, we've seen the Goomba with Toad's hat on the box art, so being able to control a Buzzy Beetle, Spiny, and Drybones all seem somewhat possible. For that reason, I'm gonna put these into B tier, with the caveat that it's not exactly these power-ups, but rather they're stand-ins for power-ups that will turn the player into the enemy. The last 2 power-ups for this video are the other 2 masks in the 3D World style, the Red Pal Box and the Bullet Bill mask. The Red Pal Box just doesn't seem like it fit well into a mainline game at all. Heck, it barely fits into 100% Mario Maker. I'm gonna place it into F tier, I really don't see it happening. The Bullet Bill mask is a bit more interesting though, as while we do have the gliding cap ability, we could possibly control a Bullet Bill at some point as well. I don't think it's as likely as the other 3 enemies though, so I think C tier is a good spot for it. But anyways, that's it for this video. Is your favorite power-up the Bulberry, and hate me for thinking it only has a small chance? Let me know in the comments. I'm really looking forward to getting new footage of Super Mario Bros. Wonder here soon. Here's to hoping the next trailer confirms at least a few more power-ups. They're probably my favorite part of 2D Mario games, so I hope to see some of them come back. But anyways, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.